Joni, it's me.
Oh, hey! You know, I had such a great time with you last night.
Listen, there's something I have to tell you. I just got back from the doctor. I have herpes. I think you should get yourself checked out.
Oh my god!
Will you stay?
What?
Will you stay with me even knowing that I have herpes?
Yes.
Alright, boys and girls, we're finally doing the build video. Now, I'm going to go over the two different specs for this build. One's the ideal spec for when the game's running perfectly fine, and the second's for when it's a bit laggy or if you're an Aussie, and I'll explain a little bit more. But let's get straight into it. By the way, I hope you guys enjoyed that intro. It was fun making it. Alright, so our monster helm is Bollards. Now we're running medium helm and a light shoulder. This is well fitted and in pen. Now, when I had the transmutes, I'll be running 2 reinforced on my heavy pieces, and then the rest will be all well fitted. Now, if you're not so much of a dodge roller and you like to kind of just stand and tank a little bit better more, then in pen's going to be a better trait for you. So just keep that in mind. Now, ideally you want try enchants on all your pieces, but if you're running low on gold, then just try and get your main large pieces enchanted with triglyphs. Alright, that being said, as I said, our 2 large pieces are prior here, and we're running reinforced on those pieces. In my opinion, it's better than in pen as far as damage mit goes, even though the way crit damage is at the moment. I have talked about this a lot in my stream. And then our other 3 pieces are our Daedric Trickery, and we're running well fitted on all 3 of these with triglyphs. Now, our jewelry, this comes down to some personalization and how you personally like to run a build, but we're in 2 Swift and 1 Infused. Now, this works well with 1 Swift, and you can also get away with no Swift and Infused, but speed is the absolute most amazing thing when you're getting zerged. Being able to get line of sight, being able to kite away from people quicker than they can catch you, and also when you're going offensive against some of these guys that are built really fast, you can kind of still stick with them, and it's really nice. It's, in my opinion, it's worth that bit extra damage. So we are running weapon damage, and a recovery. Now, with the dual world spec of this build, you'll need this recovery enchant. For the 2-hander spec, you will not need this recovery. But as I'm swapping in between the 2 specs, I am going to keep this recovery. Now, on our front bar, we are running that mole. Now, ideally, I'd like this to be a sword. I have 2 videos out now, one going over Nern versed sharpened and maul and sword, and which one's better and the differences between the 2. So if you're wondering exactly what that is, go check that video out. And I also have a video out on backbar traits defending powered and Nern versus each other and the differences. So if you're curious and want the information to make your own decision, feel free to go watch those videos. But personally, I think sword Nern at the moment is the best choice. We're also getting a lot of pen elsewhere in this build, and the slight increase damage with a mole or with sharpened isn't worth the healing that we lose. If you go watch that video, you may be surprised about how little the damage difference is. So then on our back bar, we're running defending on our sword and sturdy on our shield. We're running a health glyph on our shield. Now, normally I do run escapist poisons on the back. It's just I get lazy sometimes and don't keep buying them. But that is our gear setup. Now, with our dual world spec, we would be running mastered dual world on our front bar. So that's the only difference as far as the gear goes. Our bear setup is obviously going to change, and we'll discuss that right now. So for the dual world spec, you're going to want to run Bird of Prey. Now this is obviously Minor Berserk, which is really good, and also our Major Expedition. And Resolving Vigor. Now a lot of people wonder why this is on my front bar and why I do not run sub on the front bar and put Vigor on my back bar. This is primarily, it's not just an Aussie lag thing, it's kind of a 1vx thing. Sometimes, you know, you might want to get that execute off, but you need to get a heal off, or, you know, you don't have that half a second to go to your back bar to hit a heal, you need it right there and then. And then obviously there's the lag implications of, you know, having heals only on one bar. So it's a habit that I got into a long time ago, and I think it is a good habit for everyone to get in. You're losing 2% damage, but realistically, in my opinion, the positives outweigh the negatives. Then we're running Rally. Now, this is basically primarily there for our VAT 2-hander, but it also gives us a nice burst heal. Also gives us minor endurance, which gives us 1500 stamina recovery. Now, as I spoke, now this is one reason why we don't need as much recovery on our 2-hander setup. But also, just in general, 2-hander skills don't cost as much as dual wield. Spin to win is really expensive, and birds is quite expensive as well. So I generally find that the base recovery difference between the two is quite high. It's about 300 in my opinion. So on the dual wield setup, you might even need to find yourself running 2 recovery, just depending on how you go. But that's, you know, a personal thing once again. So next up we have our D-swing. Now this is our spammable, also is going to set our off balance. And then we have our executioner. Now from playing a lot of dual wield, this is really strong. Obviously spin to win's nice, it's an AoE execute, but it hits nowhere near as hard as this, so it's really nice. And then we're running DB. Now, you can run Northern Storm with this setup if you want, you know, a more consistent damage, but the burst from Dawnbreaker is just really good. The damage on this build, surprisingly, the fact that we're in 2 somewhat tank sets is actually really surprising. And that just comes down to Bollargs and Pierce being such damage carries in the game, and that being really strong. But anyway, on our back bar, we're running Bullnatch. This is our Purge, and gives us, it's about 400 something stamina recovery when you break it down, so it's actually quite a lot. And then we are a good habit too, guys, and anyone that watches my stream a lot will notice that I spam this a lot if I don't have anything else to do. And that's generally a good habit to get into. Just be aware of Plague, the new set that hits when you purge. Then we're running Arctic. Now, Arctic got a nerf last patch, and in my opinion, I don't think it's worth running if you're sub 35k health. Even then, it's even around 35. It's a meh kind of heal. You're using it just as much for the CC as you are the heal when you're around that. But when you start getting up around nearly 40k like we are on this build, and also getting those buffs from Daedric Trickery, and, you know, we've got some CP buffing our healing, this is actually really juicy. You know, we've got a potential of increasing it by 32% through Daedric Trickery. So, you know, it starts to get really juicy. Ice Fortress. Now, this is our major armor buff, which is basically giving us 6k spell and physical resistance, and also giving us minor protection. Now, luckily this video is probably going to age a lot better because I waited till today to post it, but Hofgar got a nerf today. Hofgar's still going to hit reasonably hard against tanks, but things like minor protection are a really good way of mitigating it. And I've been seeing today, for those that are curious what I'm getting hit by, it's high 2Ks is about what Hofgar's hitting me for now. And then we are running Pierce. This is just one of the best skills in the game as far as damage goes. You know, it's giving us basically 9,000 penetration, which is, you know, equivalent to roughly 1,100, 1,000 weapon damage. Now, a lot of people, if they could get 1,000 weapon damage from a single skill, they would be running it no matter what. So, you know, it's really good. Obviously, you could run caltrops. It's going to give you a little bit less penetration, but it's obviously got the AoE chance of, you know, mitigating a lot of, debuffing a lot more targets. So that's kind of up to you. I think Pierce is really nice. It's super cheap, and, you know, you don't have to worry about moving out of it, and you don't have to worry about the extreme cost and all that kind of stuff. And finally, we are running Sub Assault. This is our ground-based delayed burst skill. So, you know, you're timing this with your DB or with your stun, and just gives you really, really good pressure, especially with the two-hander setup. And then we are running Spell Wall. This is our defensive ult. It's basically a get out of free jail card. And, you know, you could also use this offensively, especially if you're fighting a lot of range and you want to deal with a few melee, or if you want to get a couple of them out, you can pop this and, you know, not worry about a lot of the damage for 7 seconds. So keep in mind that you can use this offensively, and I do this a lot. It's surprising how many times Sorks and this is quite rude. Anyway, it's surprising how many times Sorks or Nightblades will actually kill themselves on your sword and board ult. I actually had a Sork tonight hard cast himself to death. So as far as our dual world setup, now I'm not going to be able to get out of combat here, but we can go over the skills that you're going to swap out. Let's see if we can. Okay, we can. Alright, so you're going to swap out Rally for rendering slashes, obviously our Execute for our spin to win, and then you're going to run Cutting Dive where your D-swing is. So this is basically your dual world setup, and then you're going to run Northern Storm, because trying to get DBs to land when it's laggy is near impossible. So that's basically your dual world bar setup. It's very similar, obviously, with swapping one Execute out for another Execute, and then we're kind of going between rendering slashes and our Cutting Dive. Cutting Dive is really nice because, you know, you can get that range if you got a Sork that's streaking, or if someone's running away, you can get that damage in. And, you know, how many times I've killed someone with this when they've tried to get away from me or whatever. It's really nice in that aspect, and that's basically the one and only thing I miss when I go to two-hander setup, is not having any range skills. So they're the skills, boys and girls. We'll get into some of the other details of this build. So we didn't go over the stats, so we'll do that now. Now, I'm showing you the buff stats, and some people get mad at me when I do this. You can see our unbuffed stats when we're going for our gear, but the way I see it is you should always be buffed. So the buff stats are the only stats that really matter on a build, and we are running just shy of 20k magic and 38.6k health on our back bar with just over 26k stam. In my opinion, that's not worth going past 27k at the moment. Once you get to 27k, you're just better off stacking weapon damage, and that's just the way it is. So we're running 31 into health and 33 into stamina with our attribute points. And our magic recovery is pretty decent at just over 1100. Obviously, our health recovery is absolute trash because we're stage 3 vamp. And then our stam recovery is really solid at 2.2k. Obviously, as I said, this would be 2k if we went weapon damage on the other enchant. Then we're at almost 5.8k. Now, if we did swap that enchant out for the weapon, we'd basically be at 6k. Weapon critical is pretty poor. This might change next patch. We might have to do something a little bit about this with that proccing. And then you can see with our bollards, we're at 16.4k penetration. Now, you got to remember that we're also getting 9 from our Pierce, so we're at 25k penetration on this build. So you can see where we could totally afford to drop that mole and run a sword, and we would still be at 21, 22k penetration. Realistically, we're over pen with bollards, but obviously we're not going to have bollards up all the time, so that's where it kind of comes in being nice. And then as far as our resistances, we're at basically, say, 28k. We're a little bit higher on our spell resist, just over 28k, and we're just under 28k on our physical. And then we're at almost 15k, 1500 crit resist. I've had a fair few comments about crit resist. Crit resist, in my opinion, is... Obviously, crit damage is kind of out of control at the moment, but the amount you have to give up to get a decent amount of crit resist is just dumb at the moment. So stacking base resistances is just a better way, and you've also got to remember this, that crit resistance isn't buffing all damage. It's just buffing it's just mitigating the crits, and the way that crit chance is at the moment being super low. Yes, there are specific builds that are going to crit on you a fair bit, but generally most builds are going to be having a low crit chance, and base resistances are also mitigating crits in a way because they're lowering the original hit, which makes the crit hit less. Also, you've got to keep in mind that there is crit nerfs next patch as well, so it's getting capped at 125%, and Acuity is also getting nerfed, and there's a few other nerfs coming with crit damage, so it shouldn't be as big of an issue next patch. Now, if in-pen gave more, if it was like just over 200 or something, I would probably be running in-pen over well-fitted, but as it stands, it's just not worth it. Even if you run all in-pen, you're just going to be around 2.2k. So it's just not worth it in my opinion. But if you don't dodge roll, as I said, a whole lot, feel free to go in-pen. Now, on our back bar, obviously our damage goes down, and we basically the only real thing to look here is our resistances. So we're at almost 33k physical, and we're at 33.5 spell resistance. Now this is without prior scaling, so with prior scaling we are just over 40k on both. So you can kind of see where we've got really solid base mitigation and why our crits wouldn't be hitting anywhere near as hard. So, alright, let's get into, really quickly, we'll get into the smaller details of this build. And we are running the Serpent. We are using Bewitch Sugar Skulls. Now, if you just want to use a normal tri-stat, feel free. It's, I think, a couple hundred resources less, so you can save yourself a lot of money without really losing too much there. And as I said originally, we are stage 3 vamp. Until they do something with health recovery, stage 3 vamp is just too good, especially with prior. It's a really good combo, and then you put a massive hit pool on top of it, nearly 40k. The amount of time that we can spend in this area where vamp is doing its mitigation and where prior is really working really strongly, because you got to think of it this way: if you've got 25k, your bottom 30% is 4k ish. It's really easy to get killed from there, but if you've got nearly 40k health, it's more like 8-9k. 30%. Anyway, I'm not good at maths, but you get the point. You got a big hit pool. It's easier to spend time in this range. Okay, so we'll have a quick look at our CP. Now, I will be clear here and not bullshit you guys. I haven't had a proper chance to go through and work out and mid-max my blue CP. I'm pretty confident on my red CP, but my blue, I haven't gone through a mid-max. That being said, you can't go wrong really with what I'm running at the moment. So we're running Focused Mending. This is going to increase our healing. Duelist Debuff, which is reducing our damage by single target attacks. And then Swift Renewal, this is another healing one. And then Deadly Aim, which is increasing our damage down by 10%. So I'm probably going to swap one of these healing ones out for something else, so just keep that in mind. But in our red tree, we are running the max health because we're StamWarden. It's really good. And then Sustained by Suffering. Rejuvenation got nerfed last patch, so we are running this. It's basically the direct replacement. Obviously, you're not getting it out of combat, but if you're in combat fighting something, you're basically going to have a status effect on you, and you're going to have this up. It's I wouldn't say 100%, but it's probably 95%. If you've got 2 or 3 people on you, it's 100%. And then we are running the increased movement speed, hence why those that watch my stream, I'm extremely fast with the 2 Swift and this CP. And then we are running Survival Instincts. As I've said in previous build videos, run this CP no matter what. If you want to change out the others, for this build specifically, I would recommend the health, and this one, if you want to play with these 2, feel free. And the green doesn't really matter. And I think that's just about it, boys. I think we've got there. Now, yeah, I'll probably forget something like I always do, and you guys can let me know in the comments section. But it's been a pleasure, guys. I suppose a lot of people might question why I'm not running proc sets and why, you know, I'm not doing. Those that know me, I've never really run cheesy proc sets. Dark's really strong at the moment. Hofgar was really strong. I just don't like doing it. I like to play and have the outcome of my tune be what I do, not a freaking set procking. Also, I don't like, you know, a lot of people are kind of crying at the moment because they golded their Hofgar out and now it's kind of pointless. I don't like that too, and, you know, I don't want to adjust my playstyle every time ZeniMax nerfs my OP set. And I don't want to have to go back to being not carried by an OP set. So it's a personal choice. You know, I'm not really going to look down on you if you want to run proc sets, but that's why there's no proc sets in this build. And for those that watch my stream know that I don't really run proc sets, never really have, and I will hopefully try and continue to never run proc sets. But it's been a pleasure, guys. Now, I don't think I'm going to show any actual footage, gameplay footage in this. If you want to see the build in action, feel free to join my streams. If you have any other questions, that's the best place to ask questions. Also joining my Discord, and feel free to leave any questions you have in there. Also, really quickly, I know this is a long-winded outro, but I am rebuilding my guild at the moment, and it's going to be pretty exciting. AD have zerged me down one too many times and chased me across the map one too many times. So we are rebuilding the guild, and we're going to be running 6-mans and 12-mans and basically inserting my penis in AD's rear end. Yeah, those that have been watching my stream, I've just, they beat me down so far with their stream sniping and all that it's time to get even, and I hope they can. I hope they're prepared for it. I really, really hope they are, because they're gonna hurt. They are going to hurt. They're not going to be able to walk for a week after I've done with them. But as I said, if you want a guild invite, join the Discord. Hit me up in there. Join my stream. I am looking for raid leads and also officers. So if you're interested in either of those things, let me know. It's also a social guild for my community, so if you just want to join and hang out, and, you know, there's also a lot of mastercrafters, a lot of knowledgeable people in the guild too, so if you just want a good guild that you can ask PvP questions in, it's always a really good option too. But anyway, boys and girls, sorry for the long-winded outro. I love yous very much, and I do appreciate all you guys. And this month's been awesome with all the subs and bits and all that. It has been really amazing. So I do want to thank you all very muchly, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.